The victim has been cut in half, all organs removed, blood drained from the body, and the mouth sliced ear to ear.
It was the most notorious murder in California history. To the public, it was a sensation.
This killer will be caught.
To us, it would become an obsession.
There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, you guys. Episode 104.
104 already.
I know, right?
Black Dahlia.
Yes, this is about the Black Dahlia case. This is something, I mean, I know it's kind of like a widely known topic, but this has been requested a lot of times.
Yeah, it's something we have to cover.
And yeah, it's kind of one of those cases. Well, it's kind of like the last show that we did about ancient aliens and stuff. It's one of those things, if you do a show like we do, eventually you have to get around, you know, it's just kind of like you have to do Black Dahlia, you have to do ancient aliens. That's just how it works. And I actually wrote about the Black Dahlia case and a possibly related case called the Georgette Bowerdorf murder, which was in my first book, The Faceless Villain.
Yeah. Speaking of, the second book is almost ready, like 3 chapters.
I have 3 chapters left. 3 chapters left.
And we have some announcements to make, too.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of announcements before we get to that.
Yeah, these are really positive announcements that you guys are going to be pleased. One, we bought a new studio.
Yes. We're not using it yet because it has not arrived, but we have ordered it.
2 or 3 more shows, probably.
Yeah, it'll probably be next week's show, maybe the movie review. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Depends on when it arrives and how long it takes us to figure out how to use it.
Got lighting.
Yep.
We got chroma key background.
Yep.
Brand new microphone.
Yep.
It's supposed to be a pretty good one. It's one of those damn Yeti black series things. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah.
I got a good deal on it.
Yeah.
And got a new HD camera and a tripod.
And a tripod.
For it.
Yep.
So the show we're going to change the format a little bit. Starting today, actually. It's going to be video the whole way through.
Yeah.
And then as we need photos, she's going to bring them up and pop them into the screen.
Yeah.
For right now. And that's going to look crude today. But once the studio's in effect, we're going to have a background, we're going to have banners. It's going to be kind of like a news show.
Yeah,
but not really quite as corporate looking. We're just going to make it look better.
We're trying to like up the game of this show.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be kind of like hit and miss for a few weeks until we figure
it out.
But like I said, it's weird because at first, when we were talking about, we should do the whole show in video and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my God, are you trying to kill me? It's like, it seems like too much work.
Easier.
But when we started doing the show, like half the news part in video and then the second half in, the slideshow, I was like, wow, the video is a lot easier because I don't have to have, 200 pictures cut down to size.
Finding all those
pictures and cutting them all down to size and putting them in where they're supposed to go. It was like a huge pain in the ass because I don't really like to leave. I know on some of the other like older episodes, like I would leave a picture up there for like 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It seems like forever. And I was like, I kind of want to switch them out every 7 to 10 seconds so people don't get bored if they're watching it. So, that necessitated me finding so many more pictures. And I was like, why don't we just do the whole thing in video?
Yeah.
I will just put in photos where necessary. And then that way I just need to find a few photos that I can put in at relevant times. Yeah. And it won't be such a huge deal.
Right.
So I think we're just going to do that because it's weirdly enough, it does actually make it easier on me.
And then another thing that we've got going on is... we're moving out to other platforms.
Yeah, I mean, we're staying on YouTube, obviously, and if you listen to us on, our audio format, like on iTunes or whatever you listen to,
make a difference.
Then it won't make a difference to you. Right. But for those of you who watch us on YouTube, we actually decided to branch out. We thought it wouldn't hurt to branch out onto some other video platforms. So I made an account on Veo, which actually just has our most recent episodes. I couldn't put the movie reviews on there because they were giving me shit about copyright, because I guess they thought I was trying to upload the actual movie rather than a review of it, so I just said that's just too much trouble, whatever. So I'll just put the episodes up there.
Might have been because it was a new account, though, too.
Yeah, that too. And so we did that. We made a account on BitChute.
Yeah.
And also, we didn't, like I said, I don't want to put the entire back catalog up there because that it's going to take forever. But we have put the most recent 10 episodes and the most recent 10 movie reviews.
Yeah, we're going to put the new ones on there.
And we're going to put the new ones on there subsequently. So we have a BitChute account also.
Yeah.
Their search function is still a little
Yeah, we're gonna leave
iffy.
a link. We're gonna leave a link to the BitChute.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the
In
description.
the description box and up on Facebook probably.
So if you want to go, if
this
you want
is
to go
happening. You
subscribe
guys
to
know
this
why this is happening. A lot of creators are getting pretty pissed with YouTube. YouTube's policies are kind of vague, and which includes things that could be called conspiracy theory, and some of the topics that we do might fall under some of that, but just to be safe, we're branching out into other...
just in case. And like I said...
If you ask me, I think over time, over the next couple years, YouTube is probably going to end up being something really corporate, almost kind of like Netflix. Because a lot of people are saying that cable TV is failing, and a lot of the cable TV content producers want to move their stuff onto a platform other than Netflix. And I bet you some of that stuff will end. I think the corporations are going to take over YouTube eventually. So we have to plant seeds in other gardens.
Yeah, because for now, like, YouTube is fine. I've never had any trouble. I've never had any complaints. I've never had anything like that. I don't even really have that many shitty comments. Everybody has some. It's YouTube.
Yeah.
But every morning I go through. I call it pulling the weeds.
Yeah.
And I go through. But I usually only get one every couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I get a stupid
Yeah, we don't
comment.
let really troll infestations take root, because we've seen other channels, friends of ours have channels where they just let all comments fly. And it just kills the comment section.
I crack down on that shit.
Because
I'm like, you say something stupid, I'm just
people are afraid to post. They're afraid to post because a troll in there will jump on them, and then there's all this fighting. We don't really tolerate fighting.
No.
We
well, and I don't really tolerate negative.
Negativity. I don't even want to hear it.
I don't mind if people have a legitimate criticism. Like, some people have said, the sound was kind of fucked up on that. That's good. Like, that helps me because I can make the show better. But if you're just going to be you guys are idiots or something like that, then you're not helping anything. You're just being a douche. So fuck off. You know what I mean? So that's what I do. But honestly, we don't really get that many because most of our listeners are apparently pretty cool.
Most of them are good.
I don't get that many, and it's pretty cool. But so we just figured, how much could it hurt to at least put our most recent episodes on some other formats, so that we could maybe expand an audience, maybe somebody that doesn't like YouTube, and maybe they're on BitChute, or maybe they're on Daily Motion, because I am very, very slowly adding episodes to Daily Motion.
I've always thought that Daily Motion was actually quite vanilla, kind of a boring one, but it's good for watching movies.
It's the second biggest video hosting site in the world.
Movies on that, old forgotten movies that
and they don't really.
They're
not real anal retentive.
BitChute is kind of like the Wild West. It's kind of like the way YouTube was in the early days of YouTube. But a lot of it's during kind of beta testing. It's getting better right now. It's not fully funded. Comment sections are kind of iffy the way it works.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't like
search parameters are kind of weird. We're in the entertainment section.
Yeah.
You can find us there. The way they do things,
and they do things
weird.
With hashtags instead of keywords, which I don't really like.
It's weird, but I do like one thing about it is that a lot of the content creators that are on BitChute right now are people that have gotten driven off of YouTube. So what you end up with is a kind of a motley assortment of real edgy material makers. They're just guys who are, it depends. Maybe it's political content. Some of it is just movie reviews, but let's just say they're very very entertaining, real funny, and they're real harsh, a little too edgy for YouTube. I think what's his name, the Stevenator. Also the Razor Fist, guys like that are on there. So they have good producers, content producers. It's just that there's not very many of them yet. There's a lot of users though. Yeah. There's a lot of users.
And I feel like, we're probably not in danger of getting kicked off of YouTube or anything like that.
No,
but it's just
we got a plan just in case.
But, and like I said, it couldn't hurt to put some of our episodes up, and maybe somebody would stumble across us that wouldn't have otherwise. Like I said, somebody that doesn't like YouTube. So, it didn't take that long to do. So
all it takes is to get big enough to become somebody's competition in the corporate world, and they want to drive you out of there.
Yeah, so we're just kind of doing that just
in case.
Just in case. So we just wanted to kind of, like I said, if you listen to us on iTunes or whatever, this is not going to make any difference to you, and neither will our show being entirely in video. But I'm still going to put audio versions up for movie reviews and everything.
So it's YouTube, VO, Dailymotion, BitChute for now.
Yeah. Dailymotion, I'm still, like I said, Dailymotion, they have a 60-minute limit, so I've been having to cut most of our longer episodes in half. And they'll only let you upload a few things at a time, like to make sure that you're not a spam account. So pretty much I can only upload like 4 or 5 things a day before they're like, yeah, you're kind of uploading a lot of stuff. Are you spam?
Worst thing that can happen is that if those channels don't take off on those other platforms, they can act as kind of like advertisements for the YouTube channel.
That's what I
come
figured.
here, so it's just a bigger footprint.
Yeah.
Can't hurt.
So from now on, I'm just going to put up everything, the places I've been putting it, and then I'm just putting it in like additional places.
If we ever start getting shut down on certain platforms, it'll all just kind of shift over into whatever surviving platforms out there. So just got to cover our ass, that's all.
Yeah, so we're just all over the place. And then somebody Googles the show, then they'll see all kinds of different places where they can watch us. So that's kind of cool too. And also, let's see, what was our latest movie review? A Boy and His Dog.
You have to work. You have to give shout outs though.
Well, yeah, I was just going to... Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just policing you.
You really don't need to do that.
Sure
I have a list right here.
Okay, go ahead.
You can't see it because it's like...
I don't have my glasses. Oh, I'm blind without my glasses.
This is why. See, this is the thing. Every time we're doing the show on video, I'm like, everybody's going to think I wear glasses all the time.
I wear glasses too.
Because I have to have glasses on because otherwise I can't see the screen. I can't see because I'm old. You know what I mean? But it's
I'm older than she is.
I don't. Yeah, a little bit. You are. Yeah. But it's like I don't normally wear glasses. These are just reading glasses because otherwise everything's just blurry. So I'm like, whatever. But so I was gonna say, our latest movie review was A Boy and His Dog, the very weird 1975
awesome flick.
Sci-fi movie with Don Johnson, who was very young at the time. Yeah. So go check that out if you haven't already. Also check out our Zazzle store at zazzle.com/13 o'clock where we have t-shirts and a tote bag.
Tell them about the new product that you have.
And check this out, you guys. Remember I was talking about all these games I was going to do? I started a little company called Giallo Games because I love designing board games and card games and stuff. Okay, well, this is my first one. And I actually got it in the mail because you have to get them before you can put them on sale so you can check them out. But this is my first one. It is called A Crimson Drop on a Crystal Palette.
It's a Giallo card game.
It's a Giallo-based card game. It's kind of like a cross between, it's sort of like Clue.
Show them the back. It's all neat.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm going to have to raise it because I'm going to have to cut this down for YouTube.
We're going to make a commercial about this.
Yeah. It's sort of like Clue crossed with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
There's like a director, and the director like uses the character cards and the motive cards and the clue cards to like construct a mystery for the other players to solve. So this is my first one, and this is my first one that's going to go on sale. And actually, by the time this episode is up, these should be on sale. So if you want to go purchase one, you may. But here it just comes with a bunch of cards. And here they are.
They're really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. There's just like a bunch of cards like that.
Each one of them is different. It's like in unique.
Yeah, they're all like these little clues and things of that nature.
I don't really know how to play this kind of stuff. This is Jenny's thing. To me, it's kind of like, is it like that Magic the Gathering type of thing? I don't know.
It's not really the same premise, but it's
like Clue
I said,
and Dungeons and Dragons, but it's based on
sort
cards.
of. But it's like a more complicated kind of
And it's an
thing.
expansive game. She already has an expansion pack set up for it.
Yeah, and then what I have too is that, and a lot of the games are going to have this if they need this. Now, the printing on the top of the box is off center, but I have fixed that, so yours will not be like that if you order one.
Yeah, this is the
But
sample.
this is the expansion pack, and so if you have the regular game, you have 16 characters and a whole bunch of locations. Now, if you buy the expansion pack, this has extra characters, extra locations, so you can make the game harder. You have more to choose from in like constructing the mystery, and it makes it harder for the players to solve it. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Like I said, I have a couple other games that I've finished, but I haven't ordered proofs yet. But those will be on sale eventually, and I'm working on another one too.
So new book coming, games coming, Also, when the studio equipment's in, we get that new microphone. We're going to re-record all the audiobooks.
Yeah.
So they're all going to come out in second editions because the recording quality on some of them are not kind of iffy.
Yeah.
So we're going to clean all that up again, and then after we got big plans for the books.
Yeah.
We're
now,
going to also her.
My horror fiction.
Her horror fiction.
I'm
That's never been out.
finally.
It's never been out on audiobook.
In the next year, I'm hoping to get it all out on.
And we're going to give out free samples to.
Because I have never put them on audiobook before.
Yeah, we'll give out free audiobook samples to some.
Now, The Faceless Villain Volume 2, which is the one I'm working on now, which is almost finished. Like I said, there's 3 more chapters, and then I just have to do the print layout and the glossary. That's all I have left to do. And so, not the glossary, what do you call it? The thing where you look up things in the back. Whatever the fuck that index, that's what it's called. The glossary. What the fuck am I talking about? Yeah, the index. I have to do that. I did the bibliography and all that shit already, but so I have to do all that layout. Now, the Faceless Villain Volume 2, that's going to be the first audiobook that I'm going to do with the new microphone. Yeah. And then I'm going to systematically go back and re-record all my other ones. Because like I said, the old ones that I did on audiobook, they're fine, but I would rather...
We need better sound quality.
Yeah, I would rather redo them like with a better... Because we got a Yeti microphone.
And we'll probably put them out in order of popularity in terms of sales figures.
Yeah, so I'll do Faceless Villain 2 first, because that's the new one. Then I'll go back and do Faceless Villain 1. Then I'll do Unseen Hand. Then I'll go back and do the shorter ones.
Yeah. Actually, we'll probably knock out Mammoth Mountain, then the Mara books, and then we'll do your nonfiction.
Or do my fiction,
Yeah, your fiction.
Because my fiction has never been on audiobook, just because I haven't had time to do it.
And to our patrons and subscribers, we'll get a certain amount of free samples of the new...
yeah, I always do.
And we'll give them out, and you guys can...
They give me 25 codes for... free audio samples that people can download. If you have
an Amazon account, we'll give it to you.
And also another thing I want to say too is that Audible, they started a new, because I don't know if you guys knew, if you know anything about Audible, but for creators, they have a bounty program. If you get somebody to sign up for Audible, and your book is the first one that they purchase, then the creator gets a $50
we get a $50 bounty on recruiting you into Audible.
Right. Now, but what they started doing now was they kind of changed it where now it's not so much that you have to be like the first book that they purchased, but you have to purchase it through a special link. Like there's a particular link that you have to give them, and if you purchase it through that link, then I get $75.
Damn.
So I actually posted the link on my blog, all the links on my blog, Goddess of Hellfire. So.
Yeah, if you want to get onto Audible for the first time and buy one of her books, make sure, probably best to contact her directly on Facebook, and she can walk you through the process.
Yeah.
Because $75, man, a pop, just for an audiobook, that would help us out a lot.
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah. And Audible's a good service.
Yeah, and it's, it's really good. It's, they give you a very large percentage of your sales, especially if you do what I do and record your own audiobooks, so I don't have to like split it with anybody, which is nice. But so it's, I always liked using it. It's very easy to use.
Yeah, and we're, but this is good. It's good. I'm glad that they did that. We're constantly trying to work to give you a better quality product.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah,
so.
Like I said. So that's why we've spent all that money getting upgrading all our equipment and stuff like that, because we've been talking about wanting to do that. And, you guys, I mean, I have to say, our Patreon people and our, people that give us money on PayPal and stuff like that.
This show's for you.
Yeah, it has really kind of come through for us a lot. Yeah. And, we really want to make the best show we can possibly make it. So we said, we're just going to bite the bullet. We're going to upgrade everything. We're going to buy all new equipment.
Most of our listeners are ongoing listeners. They'll go back and start with episode 1 and work all the way through it. So sometimes when we have these big intros like this in the show, you have some people that'll click off immediately if they don't know who we are. We don't really care about them.
Yeah.
We don't. We are trying to grow our own audience base, and we use that audience base to give you free books so you guys will put reviews. That helps us launch books on Amazon.
Yeah.
Basically.
And, plus we enjoy doing the show.
We like doing the show.
And we like all the feedback
we made
that we get.
friends with you guys, so we just do these shows.
Yeah, and like I said, we wanted the best stuff we could possibly make, so we just
and
wanted to
good
invest
visuals.
back in it. Yeah.
I got my favorite YouTube shows that I watch too, so that's kind of what inspires me to go. We need to improve our looks, the way things go, and I want to have a good show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, my favorite YouTube show, well, it's Blame Society. Welcome to the Basement, and
we're gonna get that game
beer
on
and
Blame
board
Society.
games. That's why I want Beer and Board Games to do this. If you guys are watching, that would be really cool. I'm a big fan, so it's
you
like
might be able to send that one.
They actually are the ones that inspired me to get back into designing board games, because I used to do it a long time ago because I just liked it and I never really did anything with it. But when I started watching them, I'm like, man, I really need to get back into that shit. So I started doing it again. But yeah, and also speaking of Patreon, we have a new patron named Christopher. Hi. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Christopher.
And also, I have to shout out Elizabeth, who was our patron before, but she actually upped her support this week.
Okay.
Probably after we complained.
Yeah, we're trying to reach our $1,000 goal. When we reach our $1,000 goal, we will open up another channel.
Yeah, we want to do. We're not opening up another channel, but we're doing another weekly show.
Another weekly show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna do another, like a third weekly show. It'll probably come out on Sunday. I want to say I'll probably put it up on Sundays.
We're gonna call it Time Machine 13.
Time Machine 13. It's gonna be like a retro show.
We're
we're gonna be like talking about. It's gonna be kind of broad range. We're gonna talk about like stuff we remember from our childhood, stuff that's not there anymore.
We're gonna give you the history of that kind of stuff and how it went, why things happen certain ways. I was thinking along the lines of something kind of like a dead mall.
Yeah, because we love those
series. I like those, and some of the kind of like nostalgia shows, like talking about Blockbuster and talking about what went wrong with Blockbuster. Also, kind of like show kind of like Company Man mixed in.
Yeah,
with it.
I like that show
one too.
And I also want to put in stuff about old technology that we grew up with, toys that I remember from my youth, because I kind of remember.
And I want really cool music with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe like some vaporwave music at certain times.
Yeah,
and then
so
like
that's what we're kind of planning on. So once that's
visuals.
That's one of our goals. Like when we get to $1,000 a month on Patreon, we're actually going to start a third weekly show that will be all about that. It'll be like retrospective, like 70s and 80s type stuff, maybe 90s, but I was kind of old by the 90s. I graduated from high school in 1990.
Announcements done? We're done?
Yeah. So
okay, this is the news.
That was the news. You have to do past tense.
What do you mean? It was the news? I didn't
know. Oh, that's right. Okay, so
we got to do news now.
Now we got to do news. This isn't, it's not technically news.
Okay.
But I wanted to do, because we're doing a show about the Black Dahlia, which is probably one of the most famous cold cases in American history, I wanted to focus on another cold case that maybe somebody out there could help solve, because this wasn't as long ago as the Black Dahlia, so maybe there's still a possibility. And I also focused on this one because, one, I saw a couple news stories come out in it recently because they've just reopened it, and two, because it happened in Cocoa Beach, which is not that far from here. That's in Florida. So it's probably only 50 miles from here, I want to say. I'm not entirely sure. It's over on the coast. So this was a case that took place 23 years ago in 1994. And this is the murder of Amy Gellert. Now, her whole entire family was attacked, but she was the only one that subsequently died from her injuries. What happened was, apparently, a guy broke into the family's house and was stealing a bunch of stuff from her parents, and he had I believe he had a gun and a knife, and he was like stabbing them and stuff. And she came home in the middle. She came home from church, and she gets out of the car and she's in the driveway, and then she sees her stepfather, who was named Bob Layton, and he comes running out of the front door of the house, and he's just covered with blood. And then behind him, this guy's like running after him in a black ski mask, and he has a dagger and a gun, right?
Damn.
So, yeah. So apparently they find out, so the dad's been stabbed and the girl's mother has been stabbed. Her mother's name is Bunny, and she's also been stabbed. Now, they both survived, but for whatever reason, this guy just comes running out of the house and just starts wailing on this poor girl, Amy, who was she was like in her 20s, and just like starts stabbing her, and then she tries to get to another house, but she actually ended up dying. Now,
What year was this again?
This was 1994.
Damn.
So, and as I said, it happened in Cocoa Beach. So the last year or two, they've really been trying to push to solve this because they think they have a couple of suspects. They're like, see, there were two weird things about it. In the panic, the guy dropped a magazine out of the pistol. Mm-hmm. Now, they were able to trace this particular pistol. All it says is that the pistol was traced to like a prop pistol that was like used in movies and like theater productions. It wasn't
the real pistol.
So I guess not.
Right.
Because it seems like the people were stabbed, not shot.
He was just using that as an intimidation tool.
Right. Now the knife, even though obviously
that's weird.
The mom and dad they lived.
Yeah.
Now the guy was wearing a ski mask, so they didn't know what he looked like. But they said the knife that he had, they couldn't see the hilt. But they said that one part of it was like really ornate, and there's a drawing of it. And if you're watching the video, I'll put like a little drawing of the video of the what the knife looks like, because it's a pretty distinctive looking, like a really ornate looking dagger.
You know what's weird? Is that had he dropped a real pistol magazine out on the ground and they had found it, that wouldn't have been a clue.
Yeah.
Because real pistols are more common than fake pistols.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking.
That's like rare here in the United States.
That's what I was thinking. That's why probably I think they might be able to solve this shit, just because that's such a weird
you don't
thing to like take to a crime scene, and that's like, it's unusual.
Right.
Like you said, if it was just a regular pistol magazine, they'd never be able to find it, because it's like, everybody's got one of those. Yeah, right. So they do have a sketch of part of the dagger that the parents saw. So they're kind of hoping. They said they have two suspects. One of them is named Dominic Kanuka, something like that. He was a short order cook at the time. And the other suspect they have is named Scott Manley, who apparently he either had a date or was going to a party or something with Amy that night, but then he canceled it, and then she subsequently got murdered on that day. Now, both of these guys are in prison for other things. So I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if they have any DNA evidence. I don't think there is, that they could match to one of these two people. But these are the two strongest suspects. Like I said, they're both in prison on other charges, but those are the two main guys that they're looking at. And like I said, this just happened in 1994. So, and the parents are still alive. They were attacked also, but they survived their injuries. So they're kind of hoping that they will be able to find the person that killed their daughter, that just ran out of the house and just like stabbed her to death in the driveway of their fucking house. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, if anybody out there knows anything about this, like I said, it happened in Cocoa Beach in 1994, in March of 1994. Yeah, it's fucking Florida man. Jesus Christ, fucking Florida man. Running around with alligators, throwing them in Wendy's drive-through windows. That was awesome. The guy with the fucking alligator running. Just why?
We got to have him on as a guest.
Yeah, he seemed actually pretty chill.
Yeah, I saw him. He looked funny, man. I was like, okay, man.
He seemed like, he's like, yeah, you got me. I was running around a convenience store with an alligator. I don't know what I was doing. I was fucked up and drunk.
What else you got?
That's pretty much it. I just wanted to do like a crime story, and like I said, I wanted to do a cold case because of the Black Dahlia is like the kind of the ultimate American cold case that I probably at this point I don't think they're ever going to solve it, but we'll see.
We'll talk about it.
But we'll talk about it. And so that'll be, now you can do the past tense news.
That was the news. That was the news. Fuck that news because it's gone.
Thank you. That was very
We got to get like a real news song.
Yeah.
That we can put in there when we get to do studio.
I probably
I'll sing
will.
it.
Okay.
I'll sing it in studio. You're talking about, and then you can.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I was kind of thinking about how, I don't know, like I said, how many of you watched what's my favorite YouTube show, which is Welcome to the Basement. But they do like a little satellite show called Unboxing, where they open all of their mail and stuff. And Matt, the main guy on the show, he's been doing something he calls the Ford Report. He's watching all the movies by with that director. Something Ford, what's his name, that does all this fucking western no that does all those westerns and stuff. And I thought the funny thing was that he's like, oh, I need a theme song for this, and he has like this really cheesy like Casio like Mario Brothers themes, like doot 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 it's like every time I hear it, I crack up because I'm just like, it's not what you would expect. You would expect it to be something like, or like Western sounding, but it's not. He just like did this totally cheesy, and it's hilarious. So I think that's kind of what I'm gonna do with the news story. I'm gonna
all
like
kinds of cool
you can sing it, and then I'll just put like
studio.
this fucking. And then I'll put this super cheesy music. Or you could do it. Oh, you should do it like.
Man said I could.
Yeah, you should do it like a '70s porn theme.
Could do anything.
That would be really cool.
I'll just get drunk and come up with something.
Okay, I think that's what we should do. Yeah, so that'll be something for you guys to look forward to. All right, so I think that'll do it for our opening segment, as long as it fucking was.
All right.
So now we're gonna
be back with you with Black
We're
Dahlia.
gonna be back in a little bit to talk about the Black Dahlia.
That's the Black Dahlia.
Yeah.
Significant because we are willing to put pen to paper and conclude at the end of the day that this house is very much haunted and will continue to be haunted for a very long time.
Everybody, Jenny's got some new shirt designs up, 4 of them, really good ones too. Atlanta Ripper, Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle, and of course Demon Child, because man said he could. These are updated designs. I think they look really cool. Jenny did a great job on them. Were they fun making, Jenny?
They were very fun, and thank you very much. I think they came out very good.
Yeah, they get really good. They're very high quality shirts. Jenny and I wear our own shirts at certain times when we're trying to put a spotlight on ourselves, and you can put a spotlight on yourselves. If you go ahead and pick up one of these shirts today, you guys are going to love them. Links in the description, www.zazzle.com at 13 o'clock.
Yeah, so go check out our store at www.zazzle.com/13o'clock. We got these 4 cool new t-shirt designs, plus all our old ones if you'd rather get one of the old ones. But these ones are awesome, and you should check them out.
They're also available in women's cut, and they look really cute. Jenny's got some.
So thank you. Go check them out. So here we are talking about probably one of the best known American unsolved murders
Yeah, Black Dahlia.
in history, the Black Dahlia.
And I'll tell you what, before we get into this Black Dahlia, this fucking Kayla here, man.
It smells.
I had to go get some more. It smells terrible.
I don't like
I had
the
to go
smell
back
of
and get some
tequila.
more, man. This thing's got me wrapped up here. I'm in the presence of the Aztec gods right now.
Wow.
I'm getting ready to be taken to. Getting ready to be taken to the top of a big old Mayan pyramid.
And they're gonna
sacrifice
tear your
to
heart
Cool Khan.
And then they're going to throw you down the steps.
Let me show you this.
Just like an apocalypse.
This right here. I'm gonna sponsor this right now. Okay.
Hey, if Maker's Mark Tequila wants to sponsor the
Yeah,
show.
I'm sponsoring this. This is actually Sam's Club. Tequila.
Yeah, we get all our liquor from Sam's Club.
God, this stuff is good, man.
Because we're classy like that.
Well, hey, man, the prices are good. I'd say
Yeah,
it's probably
the
about.
vodka's cheap, actually.
Yeah, the vodka is exactly like Grey Goose.
And
like
it's
you
what?
get a huge bottle, like $11 for a bottle.
Or $13 for a big
And then this
bottle.
one is like $30 for a bottle. I think it was $30, or wasn't it? Or was it less?
No, I think it's only
$20 a bottle. $25. And see, the beautiful part about it is this is a business expense. So we write this shit off on our taxes.
Don't tell
Don't.
It is a business expense.
Yeah, we got to have it, man. It fuels the show.
That's what I mean. The show is not
it's
as
an
funny.
alcohol-fueled program.
The show's not as funny when we're sober. That's all I'm saying. We're not drunk. It's just, we need a little bit of...
I'm getting there. I'm just
we need a little bit of social lubrication, as they call it. I know that sounded kind of dirty, but...
All great artists were like that throughout the 70s.
Yeah, it's... Well, like
80s
I said...
became cocaine. Fucking 70s was alcohol.
I'm just saying, I'm a writer, I'm a game designer, I'm a graphic designer. It's like, you do that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big drug person, but I'm not a drunk, but it helps.
Yeah.
Just saying. It does help.
Okay,
Now, okay. So let's talk about the Black Dahlia. You know about this case, kind of.
Yeah, I've been hearing about it off and on.
The thing about this case, I feel like it's probably one of the best known cases. One, because it was never solved, which that always helps. Two, because it was like super gruesome. It's kind of like the Jack the Ripper things. It's like Jack the Ripper, he was a serial killer. He only killed 5 women that they know of. But because the murders were so gruesome and they never caught him and no one ever saw him, so it was kind of like that. So I feel like the Black Dahlia murder is kind of falling under that. There was really no motive. She was cut in half, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Plus, like a lot of other...
A smiley face cut.
Yeah, like there were a lot of other mutilations also.
Yeah.
Not just that. I mean, that's bad enough, but I'm just saying there was a bunch of other shit too. And, and over the years, it has been fictionalized so many times. Like James Ellroy wrote kind of a fictionalized account of it. Brian De Palma made a movie in 2006 called The Black Dahlia, which actually I remember seeing in the theater. I liked it. It's a little overwrought. I mean, it's Brian De Palma. But it's very loosely based on what really happened. And I think that a lot of shit has, there are a lot of like weird rumors and speculations about her as a person, which I think kind of does her a disservice because she was just like a regular girl.
She's a regular girl.
And then like there's all this stuff, she was a hooker and she was a lesbian. She was... she had a weird vagina. Like it was like there's all these like fucking weird rumors about it. It's like she was just a normal
regular scene chick.
Girl. It's
regular
like
scene chick in California.
She was from Boston. She moved out to California.
Yeah.
Maybe she wanted to be an actress. Maybe she was just working as a waitress. It's like she wasn't a prostitute. There was nothing weird.
They're just trying
about
to glamorize
her. Right.
it.
So there was like nothing weird about her particularly. She was just a normal person. So I kind of wanted to get into that too because I feel like a lot of the movies and the stuff about her kind of makes her look like...
trash.
Yeah, or like she deserved it somehow.
No, she was just a regular chick.
She was just a regular girl.
Regular California chick for the scene at that time. That's all she was.
That's it. Yeah, that's all she was. And also, I think, and it must be said too, that I think the reason that people still remember this case too is because she was a very beautiful girl and she was very distinctive looking. So, with that's always kind of helps. I hate to say it, but when the victims are good-looking white girls, people
ugly girls they've just forgotten.
I know it's sad, but it's true. Well, and I think we kind of went into this too, on a little bit on our Atlanta Ripper show, where it's like when the victims are working class Black girls.
Yeah, they're kind of forgotten pretty
quickly. No one really cares, honestly.
Yeah,
but
it had to do with demographics. Also has to do with marketing.
Yeah.
You can easily market a product to a mainstream America if it involves a white person, especially back in those days.
Yeah.
When white people were more of a majority.
Yeah, and I think that definitely happened here.
It's not as racial as people want to read into it. It's more about marketing.
And, and I think the thing, too, is that really there's really no motive. I feel like there's no motive for her to have been murdered this viciously.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody to do what they did to her, even though a lot of it was done after she was dead, it's like, why? Just the motivation for it just kind of kills me. And plus, like I said, in the ensuing years, there have been a lot of weird rumors about who killed her and stuff. And there were even some famous people. Why don't we start
from the beginning? How does this go down?
Well, start from the beginning. Obviously, her real name was Elizabeth Short. This happened in 1947. Now, she was originally from Boston, as I said.
So it's post-war.
Right.
I'm from California partially.
Yeah.
I lived in California, Mississippi, Brazil. I was moving around everywhere.
Yeah.
I was from Long Beach, California. I was actually born in Long Beach. Left when I was about 12. In the 40s, California was the area they're talking about was actually kind of rural by today's standards. It was a developing part of the country.
Yeah.
It was in a way a lot like the way Florida is now. And I will tell people this here in Florida, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. I'm from California. California was very Florida-like for a long time. It wasn't metropolitan until kind of the modern era. And what Florida was like is that it was kind of like it was country mostly, with some suburbs and small cities. One of them being Los Angeles, the other one being like Sacramento and San Francisco. The rest of the stuff was very suburban and very country.
Yeah.
But what it allowed you to do, because it wasn't very restrictive and it was a big state, it allowed for good social scenes, including actors. You know what I mean? They could get by on a very small paycheck, go to good clubs, and live in small places. You know, even Bela Lugosi lived in a little bitty place towards the end of his career. And it was a fun place. It was not the California you would know today. So you have to put that in perspective.
Yeah.
California in 47 was suburban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Largely. I mean, like
suburban.
you said, it's kind of like here now. Well.
And it was a tight-knit group of people. It was more like a scene.
Well, and like I said, the thing about Elizabeth Short was that she was originally from Boston. Her dad actually, for a job, built miniature golf courses.
Yeah.
But he lost most of his money during the stock market crash. Now, one of the weird things about her family background is that for a long time, they thought that her dad had committed suicide because, like, they found his car and they never found his body and all this other stuff. So, like, the mom and all the kids, you know, including Elizabeth Short, like, kind of moved on thinking he was dead. And then many years later, the dad comes over and was like, yeah, sorry about that. I faked my death, and now I have a new life with, like, a new wife and new kids and stuff. So that, in part, is one of the reasons why Elizabeth Short, like, moved out to California. Now, she had a lot of health problems when she was younger, like with her youngs of bronchitis and things like that. So they told her, well, you need to move to a warmer climate, because that's what they usually told you to do back then. Go to a warmer climate, and it helps you.
Shit.
Yeah. So she actually lived in Miami for a little while and back and forth. So, and eventually, when she was older, she went to live with her father in California. And she actually hadn't seen him for a very long time because she thought he was dead, which must have been pretty weird. But yeah, so she moved back out there. Now, most of the things about her say she was an aspiring actress, which maybe she was. There were actually, if you look on Google, and I'll put some of them in the show, there are actually like a lot of photos of her that look like not professional, headshots or anything like that, but they look like, this is something that you would send to a casting. You look
she
how
looked
pretty
like
she
a
is.
model.
Yeah, she was a very, very pretty girl.
Not a first-rate model, but a model.
I thought she was a very pretty girl. She's very distinctive looking. Like I said, she had very, very black hair.
Yeah.
And she always had. It's weird because after she died, one of the autopsy report was talking about how all her teeth were rotten or decayed, but it doesn't look like that from the photos. Yeah. Now So I don't know if she was an aspiring actress. She doesn't have any acting credits. She apparently never got any acting jobs that they know of.
Was there an explanation of why her teeth were rotten at such an early age?
Not that I know of. It's like
must
maybe
have been
it was
some
just
kind of drug.
It could have been that, or maybe she just wasn't. I mean, maybe it was some kind of nutritional issue. Maybe she had grown up kind of poor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, because she was quite young when they thought her dad committed suicide.
Yeah.
So her mom was kind of like forced to take a job to like raise the kids on her own and all this other shit because the dad faked his death and abandoned them, which I thought was kind of strange. But yeah, so eventually she ended up in California, like I said, and she was doing waitressing, secretarial type of work, shit like that. Now, one thing that I read, like I said, it seems like they always want to show she was a prostitute, or she was, even some of the newspaper reports at the time where she was prowling up and down.
Yeah, where did they get
Hollywood
this?
Boulevard. I think. Well, it was because William Randolph Hearst owned a lot of the larger newspapers in Los Angeles at the
Yellow
time.
journalism.
And they just wanted to make it more salacious.
Yeah.
They even changed the description of the outfit that she was last seen wearing to make it was the sheer black It was a business suit. It was a black business suit is what it was. That's what she was last seen wearing when she got dropped out. It was nothing slutty, nothing like that. She was not, like I said, she wasn't a hooker. She wasn't anything.
Right.
Now, one thing that she did kind of do, though, she was very popular. She did hang out in, like, hotel bars. She did, like, date men and stuff. I mean, she was a single girl. That's what she did.
Yeah.
And honestly, she didn't have a lot of money, so sometimes she would go out on dates with dudes and, like, hey, they'd buy her dinner and she'd be like, standard. Hey, free meal. That's a lot of girls did that, especially in LA.
To the 80s.
Right. It's like, why wouldn't you do that?
It was just normal.
So it's like like I said, she wasn't a hooker or anything like that, but she was kind of like getting some food where she could get it, which you can't blame the girl for doing that. So at this point, so she's been doing this and kind of hanging out there for kind of a long time. She's there in January 1947. Now, the last time that she's seen, they think, was January 9th, 1947. Now, she had been in San Diego visiting some friends, and she was there with someone named Robert Red Manley, who some sources say was a friend, some sources say she was dating him. He was married. But, I don't know what the truth of that matter is. Like I said, I don't like to besmirch people's
we have
shit
to
like
be
that.
Realistic. In the 40s, a single woman dating a married man in the 40s was common.
Yeah, so she could have very well been. It's like, it's not that...
Marriages were kind of economic and political back then, and guys fucked around.
Yeah.
And got away with it. Yeah.
So he was evidently the last person to see her alive, and this was on January 9th. He dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel. And then at that point, there was like a missing week. Because, some people claim to have seen her during this week. Some people, it's like, it's kind of sketchy where she was during all that time. But basically, she turned up dead on the morning of January 15th, 1947. Now, Betty Bersinger, who was walking around this neighborhood at Lamert Park with her kid. This was there was kind of a neighborhood, but it was like largely undeveloped at this point. She was walking around with her kid, and I've written enough true crime to know that every time somebody sees a body just laying on the side of the road, they always say, I thought it was a broken mannequin. They all say that.
Yeah, well, I've seen dead bodies. They don't look real.
So that's not because that's not the first thing you would think of.
They're
You'd
totally
be walking down the
lifeless,
street.
They look solid.
Yeah.
They don't look soft at all.
You'd be
They
like,
look kind of
what's
hard.
that
You go,
thing
that's
over
not
there?
real. And you look at it and you go,
It's
that's a real
mannequin.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was definitely the case in this case. That's what she thought. She thought it was a broken mannequin. It was not a broken mannequin. It was Elizabeth Short. Now, she had been sliced in half cleanly at the lumbar vertebrae. Her entire body was white. She had been drained completely of blood. Her body had been cleaned with gasoline.
That means something.
Yeah. Well, and there was some other shit about that too.
All right.
So, also her mouth, whoever done it cut her mouth from here, the sides of her mouth to her ears, which is called a Glasgow smile, which if any of you are from Glasgow, I don't know why it's called that. I don't want to know. It's just kind of like that Colombian necktie thing. Is it a Colombian necktie?
Yeah,
yeah.
Colombian necktie.
Yeah, you guys have
That's
seen
from
mob
Colombia,
movies.
though.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so this is called a Glasgow smile when they cut from the corners of your mouth to your ears. She had that. Her intestines had been tucked under her buttocks. Some actually later sources said that she had burned with cigarettes, but that's actually not on the autopsy report.
Yeah,
now,
if that had happened, it would have been there.
Right. Now, something that I did see from some sources that somebody allegedly had torn out all of her pubic hair by hand.
How would they know it was by hand?
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. Maybe they can tell. Now, some of the sources also said that.
How do you know that she didn't do that?
Why would you tear out your... Yeah, that's the thing. You don't
They
know.
might have plucked back then, or they might have shaved. Who knows?
Also, her anal opening was dilated, which made them... It led them to believe that she had been raped, but there was no sperm present. But I'm like, yeah, but...
That happens automatically.
It doesn't need to... Yeah, but it doesn't need to be a dick to
right.
be rape. anal rape. They could have raped him with something like a bottle or something.
Yeah,
like
but when
that.
a person dies, they lose the ability to, you know what I mean?
Right,
to have
true.
That I don't think there's anything to that.
Yeah, so she was just laying in this undeveloped neighborhood. Now, they think that she had been dead for about 10 hours at this point when they found the body. The only other clues that they found, now she also had a bunch of cuts all over her body, like on her thighs, on her boobs, and like some of her, there were like chunks of her flesh that had been like cut off.
Really? Where's
and
this?
Things
Where's
of
this
that nature. I think even like, I don't know if it was like her nipples and stuff have been cut off. I mean, somebody
It's not stated in the autopsy report.
Well, it's like I said, sources are kind of
there's conflict in the sources.
There's conflict in the sources.
Okay.
And she'd also been posed, like her legs had been opened, her arms had been put behind her head.
That's typical.
And so
Serial
it's
killer.
obviously somebody wanted her found,
right,
and wanted her to be found in that particular fashion. So this was a fetishistic killing, obviously, because they had left it in that way. So the only clues they found at the scene, they found a heel print. They also found a couple of tire tracks. There was a cement sack that had a little bit of watery blood on it or in it. But that was pretty much it.
There was a cement sack near her?
Yes.
That had that in there? Was there any cement in it? Or was it just a sack?
No, it was just an empty sack. So I don't know if that's
was in the trunk.
So that might have been something that was in the killer's car, or they had transported the body in that, or whatever. Yeah. I'm not really sure. Good. So that was kind of that. And like I said, this is probably why this case is so famous, because she was basically cut in half at the point where you wouldn't have, where it would be easiest to bisect a body.
So there was some knowledge.
So
about
they
anatomy.
are kind of thinking, even from the beginning, they're thinking this is somebody that has some surgical knowledge, probably, because how would you know otherwise to cut at this particular point? And like I said, somebody had drained all the blood out. There was no blood in the body, and they had washed it with gasoline. So, yeah.
That means there was something on the body that they wanted to wash off. I wonder maybe if there was some kind of makeup or applied, or some kind of paint applied to photograph the body, maybe.
Yeah.
And then that was washed off to hide the evidence. It's weird. I mean, it makes you wonder, was this body used in a photo shoot?
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And actually, I kind of want to get into that a little bit later, because when we're talking about the whole Dr. George Hodel thing, and like how he was friends with Man Ray,
did he have a
who was a famous photographer.
He was a photographer?
No, not George Hodel,
Okay.
but he was friends with Man Ray, who was a very famous photographer. Now, Man Ray has a very famous photograph called the Minotaur, which is of a naked woman's torso, and she has her arms up like that, just like Black Dahlia's were. And so a lot of people like
I don't know very
Steve
much about
Hodel,
this
who
case,
wrote
and
the
that
book,
kinda
The Black
clicked.
Dahlia Adventure.
That kind of clicked in my mind.
It seemed a little odd that it...
Why would you have to wash an entire body in gasoline in an era before...
He washed all her stuff in gasoline, too.
And they did that before the era of DNA. Okay, so he's not trying to hide DNA. He's trying to hide something else that was put on there.
Fingerprints?
I don't even think so. Maybe makeup.
I don't
Something
know.
like that.
Like I said, this is the fucking...
It's weird.
This is a weird-ass case, yeah.
It's weird.
So, honestly...
Unless the body was stored in some kind of inside of a gasoline container for a while.
Well, it wasn't a while, because they thought she'd only been dead for about 10 hours before they found the body. So she must have been killed. And most of the mutilations, obviously being cut in half and all the other stuff, most of the mutilations happened post-mortem. She actually died from trauma to her head, from like they beat her around the head and just basically killed her that way.
Knocked her out and strangled her or something, right?
No, they didn't strangle her. It was from head injuries, and blood loss. She didn't. So all of the injuries to her body, the very famous injuries, were actually happened after she was dead. So here is the fucked up part. So they identified her pretty much immediately because she had her fingerprints were on file. Not only because she had applied for a job at a nearby army base, but also because she had been arrested like 7 months to a year before, just for underage drinking. It wasn't like a big deal or anything.
No big deal back then.
But yeah, so that's why there's mug shots of her. Like if you look on Google, there's mug shots of her. It wasn't like she didn't fucking do anything horrible. She was just underage drinking at a bar. So they had her fingerprints on file. So they were able to identify her. pretty much immediately. Now, here's a shitty thing. As I said, William Randolph Hearst, who owned the one or two largest newspapers in the Los Angeles area.
I've been to his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Hearst Palace. You ever been there?
No, I've seen it. I've seen pictures of it.
Oh man, it's fantastic. It's like a Roman palace. Man.
That guy was kind of a piece of shit, though.
Yeah,
I've read a couple of books.
I'm just talking about his house. His house is fantastic.
Yeah, nice
You can
house.
tour it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice house. That was back during the era of the American robber baron.
Oh, yeah.
Those motherfuckers were just like, they were like gods on the earth. They were like
Yeah.
something out of damn Prometheus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what they did. They wanted the scoop on this so bad. Reporters from one of the Hearst newspapers called Elizabeth Short's mother, Phoebe, back in Boston, and said, your daughter won a beauty contest. And like got all this personal information out of the mother, with the mother thinking, oh yay, Elizabeth won a beauty contest. After they get all this information out of her, they're like, oh, by the way, actually she got murdered. And then they were like, hey, we'll pay your airfare out here if you promise to talk to us first and not the police. So, you know, that's nice. 1947. So yeah, that's what happened there. And like I said, the newspaper reports at the time tried to make it much more salacious than it was. They were always, oh, she had this sheer black blouse and she was like a hooker and she was prowling up and down. Like I said, she had on a normal black business suit like most women would wear in 1947, which is a normal outfit. She wasn't like cruising around or anything like that. So it was nothing like
libel laws weren't existent back then.
True.
And you know that they're not existent anymore. If you look at the garbage tier media that you have online right now, they'll say anything about you.
Well, the thing is, even if the laws are in place, it's like if you don't have the money to
bring up the
defend
suit,
yourself or to bring a lawsuit,
and how can you sue a website that doesn't have any money?
Yeah, that's what I mean. There might as well not be a law because
right,
it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And the thing is, it's like once the information is out there, everybody's going to remember the first thing they hear. They're not going to remember the correction. That's just human psychology. That's how that works. That's why when newspapers print retractions, it's like it hardly ever works because people remember the big shit on the front page. They don't remember the little retraction that you printed 2 days later.
And they talk about fake news now. Fake news now doesn't have anything on the era of yellow journalism.
They just made shit up back then.
Yeah, they made shit up.
They just
made
shit up. I mean, they do that now too. I'm not saying that, but
they made it up back then too.
Super brazen.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got to watch. Like I said, you write about true crime like I write, and I'm trying to like get some, good information.
Media's a bunch of lies.
But and you can get newspapers from the time, but you really got to read a whole bunch of different ones to kind of get because you're going to get
different versions of that same lie.
That's what I mean. You try not to. I try to
Yeah.
So okay, evidently, so this happens right now. There was some kind of shit too about this is some Zodiac type shit here too, which I think maybe a lot of people don't know about the Black Dahlia case, but apparently the alleged killer did kind of taunt the police.
I didn't know about that.
And said, see, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't know about that.
And kind of send them sort of random note sort of messages and shit like that. January 21st, which was about a week after the body was found. A person who said that they had killed Elizabeth Short, they called the editor of the Los Angeles Examiner, and they said, oh, you guys have done such a good job covering the murder. Your paper has done such a good job covering the murder. And he's like, I'm going to turn myself in eventually, but I'm going to let the police chase me more because I like that, I guess. And he says to the editor, he says, I'm going to send you to prove to you that I'm the person that killed her. I'm going to send you some mementos from Beth Short, he says on the phone. 3 days later, a manila envelope arrives. And it had been, actually they found it at the post office, but it had been addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles newspapers. And it was done like a ransom note. It was like cut and pasted shit out of other newspapers and shit like that. And on the envelope, it said, here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow. Inside the envelope was Elizabeth Short's birth certificate,
So for real.
A bunch of business cards that she had on her from various people that she knew. Some photographs of her. Some names written on a piece of paper. And there was an address book in there, and this was kind of a significant clue. There was an address book in there that the name Mark Hansen was embossed on the cover. So obviously Mark Hansen, they said, well, we have to figure out who this is because he's like a main suspect. Now, it turned out that Mark Hansen was like, he owned kind of a sketchy nightclub in the area. Elizabeth Short was a friend of his. She had been staying with him and his wife or girlfriend just as a paying boarder. He was actually investigated quite a bit, but they couldn't really find any evidence to suggest
anyone culpable would not have been in that
right,
stuff that
and
he sent
that's
back.
yeah, and that's what I mean.
Guy, whatever that guy sent back, he had nothing to do with any of that.
And Mark actually said, she's like, "Oh, well, I
Ridiculous.
just had that address book in my house, and I had never used it, so Elizabeth just took it
He would have
because
never
I wasn't
sent anything
using
that
it."
would have made him culpable.
Right, that's what I mean.
Ridiculous.
So I kind of don't feel like
Wasted
it's
their
probably
time investigating that.
So I kind of buy Mark Hansen's story. It's like, well, I just had an empty address book in my house with my name on it. You know, I had them printed and I never used it. So she just used it because she was living here and she needed one. So I gave her one. So, but whoever sent this stuff to the newspaper obviously knew her. I don't know if it was her killer, but he obviously knew her because he had all of her shit.
Yeah.
So he did send it.
He killed her.
So, yeah.
He killed her. He killed her, and whatever he sent back there, whatever he sent to them, whatever whatever those items contained, they contained no information that you could trace it back to him.
Right, that's
so
what
I wouldn't have even
because that would be dumb if you just like sent an address book. Hey, here's my name.
Yeah.
Come get me. Yeah, that would have been really dumb. But yeah, so they were trying to get fingerprints off the envelope and shit like that. But then, you know, they were like, well, we don't know who else touched this on the way here, so we can't, you know, it was 1947. What are you going to do? You can't fucking do that. You don't know how many people have touched it in transit.
I'm already at the point now where I'm going to tell you something.
What are you going to tell me?
This wasn't a serial killer.
No.
It couldn't have been.
Probably not. I feel like it was someone that knew her.
It was somebody that knew her, and this was a one-of-a-kind crime. If it was a serial killer, it wouldn't have been known as the Black Dahlia case. It would have been known as a fucking group of cases. This was a one-time kill. And it was some guy that knew her or had contact with her, and he did this to her, and then he taunted the police over it. And it was a one-of-a-kind killing. Because if he had killed more, it would have fit this same pattern, and then those homicides would have fallen into the same lot with this one.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it as the Black Dahlia case. You would know it as the something or other murders. You know what I mean? Where there'd be 3 or 4 of them.
There were some
this
other
a one-time case. I'm thinking
there were some other cases that took place in the area.
He would have bragged on those cases
Yeah.
and linked that case to this one.
There were some other cases that took place in the area at the time that some people thought were related, but none of them were really that similar. Now, the only case
The offender would have made sure to link all these cases together. He's already talking to the police. Had he killed more of them, he would have said, "Oh, by the way,
he would have pulled the Zodiac,
and then he'd been like the Zodiac killer,
and been like, "Hey, I killed this one, that one, the other one,
and
like
then,
come catch me."
So this is a novice killer. This is a one-time event.
Some people have tried. Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah,
but the only serial killer one of the few serial killers that have been linked to this case, because Peter Merylo, who was one of the, if you watched our show about the Cleveland torso murders, you'll know who Peter Merylo is. He was one of the main investigators on that case, and he was actually trying to establish a link between the Cleveland torso murders and the Black Dahlia murder, just because the MO was very, very similar. Because if you'll remember, the Cleveland torso murderer also enjoyed cutting up his victims in a similar fashion.
I'm going to go back to what I was saying before in the profiling. If it was the same offender, he would have taken pains to tell the authorities.
This seems a personal
This is
crime.
a one-time killer. He gloated over it and then stopped for one reason or another. Maybe he was killed. Maybe he killed himself. Maybe he wasn't able to continue. Maybe his life changed in some way or another and he wasn't able to continue. Something like that. Could have been this is a one-time event. He got off on it for a while and then started to regret it. Or something changed in his life and he said, I don't want to be involved in that anymore. got too much to lose. Something like that.
Which seems a little odd. Someone that would go to the trouble of killing someone, cutting them in half, doing all of the shit that he did, and then leaving it where obviously someone would find it.
It may have been something just as simple as he did this, gloated over it, and then met a girl. He liked her, normalized, married her later on, and there's no way he wanted to get involved in that shit again because he'd lose this one. Something like that.
That kind of shit scares me because
they do that.
You don't know.
Serial killers get girlfriends. Serial killers get married.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That kind of scares me.
So it might have been something like
because
that.
What if the girlfriend or the wife doesn't know, and then you find out later? That's
some
really
serial killers
alarming.
Some killers have the ability to stop.
I know.
By the FBI definition, you have to kill 3 in this same fetishistic.
Yeah, in a fetishistic sort of fashion. Sure.
If you stop after the first one, you're technically not a serial killer.
Not a serial killer.
So this may have been a one-off thrill killing, and for some reason the fetish didn't hold.
Yeah.
It didn't take root.
This might be more common than we realize.
Right.
And it's just not as studied because they're not a serial killer, because they don't do it again. Because there are a lot of these unsolved murders that have real weird.
You know a lot more about it than I do. I have a layman's understanding of this case.
There's a lot of shit like this.
Yeah, I have a layman's understanding of this case, and that's what I'm going to tell you right now based on what I'm hearing from you. Yeah. But go ahead.
Okay, so the same day that this package of stuff arrived at at the Los Angeles Examiner's office, somebody also reported that there was a purse and some black suede shoes, and they were on top of a garbage can in this alley, not far from where Elizabeth Short's body was found. Now, these things had also been washed in gasoline. And Red Manley, who was the last person to see Elizabeth Short alive, he had driven her from San Diego back to her house in Los Angeles. They had kind of been dating off and on. And he actually helped the police identify. He's like, yeah, that's her stuff. So somebody left it. I think it was about 2 miles away, in an alley about 2 miles from where the
And he's
body
washing
was
it in gasoline.
Yeah.
Which in 47 would have been overkill. You know what I mean? He doesn't even know about the existence of fucking DNA.
Although I have to
he's
say,
overkilling it. He's making sure there's no way to find him.
Is it
which
though
tells
because
me this is his first one.
Yeah.
Because serial killers tend to get lazy and they don't give a shit. They just leave the body there.
Is it though? Because seriously, I watched this short safety film from the 40s or the early 50s. They used to wash clothes in gasoline,
right.
Dry cleaning type stuff.
You got me. But the thing is...
So it wasn't that unusual. It'll wash everything.
They used to use gasoline for hair pomade.
Yeah.
But it was a different gasoline.
I know it was but I'm just saying, it was still...
It did not have the detergents that you would have today.
No.
And it didn't have all the additives. It wouldn't burn you up as bad as it would today.
It did, though, because...
It was earlier. It was oilier.
This film that I saw was from, like I said, it was late 40s or early 50s. Go ahead. And it was a safety film about, hey, if you're washing your clothes in gasoline, as everyone does back in the day, then be sure not to blow yourself up.
Right.
It was one of those type of things. And they had this housewife, and she was washing her clothes merrily in gasoline, and then she set herself on fire, and she died, and her family were
It was a different gasoline. Okay.
Oh, I know.
It's not the same gasoline you have today, and I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
I worked with it when I was young, after I got out of the Army. I worked with an old man who was in his 80s. All right, named Jimmy.
Yeah, you've told me about this guy.
And Jimmy would talk about how delicious it was to deep fry whole chickens.
Oh, I remember.
In motor oil.
Yeah, I remember this.
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, well, it was a different motor oil we had back then.
I could see how that would be good.
And I was like, really?
I would eat it.
And he was just, it was a different motor oil that we had. I'm going to do his voice. It was a different motor oil we had back then. You could deep fry in it. And I was like, no way. And he was like, you could batter a chicken and you could drop it in 5 gallons of motor oil and it would sizzle and pop. And when it came out of there, there'd be no oil at all in the batter. And I was like, really? He goes, it wouldn't absorb. There was some weird shit. And he goes, and the flavor was good. I said, this was motor oil good. Shell Mobile. Shell and Mobile.
We even had brands.
Yeah, they were cooking in it. You couldn't. I
believe it.
You couldn't do that today. Not with the detergents.
I tell you what, though, if somebody made
evidently
that now,
the viscosity was so thick,
right,
that once it got hot,
that it
wouldn't actually penetrate
into I get you.
Weirdest shit ever.
I'm not. I hope the people won't think I'm too weird, but like if somebody made that and we're like, yeah, I made this in motor oil, I would try it. He was just out of curiosity.
He was doing that in the 30s and the 40s.
I'll eat pretty much anything.
He was doing that in the 30s and the 40s. You know?
Yeah.
Fucking bizarre.
Well, like I said, people wash their fucking...
said it was delicious.
It was like dry cleaning, and they wash their clothes in gasoline. And seriously, I think that Riff Trax did this on one of their shorts. I think that's probably where I saw it, because that's where I see all these old industrial shorts. But it was like this housewife that was blowing herself up because... Yeah. You know.
He would also tell me about the marvels of castor oil. That castor oil the oil from castor beans was better than any motor oil, anything that you could have today because of...
I thought you were gonna say it was good as like a fucking like it would make you shit or something.
Oh, I don't know about that. He's talking about how great castor oil was. That it was just
that was a big thing back in the day. Castor oil. I remember reading a lot of stuff from that era.
You could put castor oil in a motor and basically never change the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like castor oil was maybe like I think people were eating it. I don't know if it was
they put it in their hair. They did everything. They put gasoline in their hair.
I don't know if it was like as to cure constipation. I could be wrong about that, but I do feel like that was something a lot of people did, or it was something they gave kids. Holy crap, man! What the shit they used to give to kids. That's like amazing. Although I can't really judge because I used to drink Cree emulsion straight out of the bottle. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like a cherry. It's like a cherry tasting like cold medicine, and it was delicious.
One time I burned my finger as a little kid. I was probably about.
It probably had morphine in it.
Like 4 or 5, and my granddad grabbed my hand and put it in butter, which fucking immediately felt good.
My grandma did that.
2 seconds, and then all of a sudden it's
yeah.
Because your skin can't breathe. You can't release any of the damn.
Yeah, you really you have to like.
My mom said, "Don't put butter on his hand." And I washed it off, and it felt better.
They didn't know that back then.
Old people didn't know anything.
I know.
They're all dead.
Well, the funny thing about old people is they think they know everything.
They know everything,
but they don't know anything really.
They're pretty dumb. It depended on what they were talking about.
Yeah. In general, they don't.
In general,
know
they didn't know anything.
In general, they don't know.
In general, baby boomers don't know anything right now.
Well, like I said,
you got billionaire baby boomers trying to sink millions and millions of dollars into the internet as if it's something that they can dominate like cable television. Those old men are going to lose their asses when they try to take control of the internet. The internet it's like trying to grab water.
Well, they don't know how it works.
It's
kind of cute, actually.
What's that?
I think it's kind
very
of cute.
They're going to try to.
And honestly,
they're going to try to control the internet.
I'm not even young. I'm an old person. I'll be 46 in a couple of months.
Kids, baby boomers, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
No, they don't.
Wait till Gen X gets in charge.
Which is us.
Right.
But,
we don't believe in any of that stupid shit.
That,
Yeah.
Like I said, old people, they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
And I'm an old person, and I don't know shit. I'm willing to admit that. I'm not like, I don't get my feelings hurt about it. I know I don't know anything. It's cool. But yeah, so obviously, since she had this address book that got sent there, and it had Mark Hansen's name on it, so of course they crawled up his ass. But, honestly, it seems like he didn't really... there was this whole thing. She had this friend called Ann Toth that was like, oh, yeah, Mark Hansen was kind of into her and he'd made like sexual advances and she turned him down and blah, blah, blah. And so like that kind of gave him a motive. But, they gave him polygraph tests and stuff and it probably wasn't him. It's like, like you said, why would he send an address book with his name on it?
Never. Would never happen.
Unless he was a complete idiot, which I don't think he was, obviously because he hasn't been caught.
Yeah, whoever did this was intelligent.
Yeah. So they had like over 700 investigators working on this shit, right? Back in the 40s. And yet they still have not solved it. And like I said, there is so much like rumor, so much speculation like revolving around this case. It was
somebody she dated, somebody
I feel like it had to be somebody she knew. Somebody, like, it's very rare And like you said, there aren't a lot of related murders other than the Cleveland torso murders, which were obviously a series of somebody that was doing that time. Although he largely targeted men.
Yeah.
He did kill some women, but it seemed like it was mostly men, and mostly gay men from kind of the poor neighborhoods of Cleveland and whatnot. So this seems a little out of his bailiwick, I'm just saying. So I don't think that those two things are related.
I'm going to say it was somebody she knew, somebody she had some kind of dealings with. She either did business with him or she dated him. Late 20s to 30s. Somebody who owned a home. Somebody who had a place that was private enough to do this.
Because this took a while to do this.
Somebody who, for some reason or another, could not continue this kind of activity. So maybe a married man who decided that I didn't really get what I needed out of this. This isn't worth it. I'm going to stop. Or somebody who was on the verge of maybe getting married. He did this, and then he meets a girl and marries and stops because he doesn't want to jeopardize that relationship. Something along that lines.
I have to say that like I said, me writing true crime stuff and you talking this way, this is why I'm terrified of men. Because is this all it takes for one nice girl to put up with your shit and then you will stop being a serial killer? If I hadn't met you...
No, these guys...
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the royal you. I'm talking about a general you. I'm just like, if this nice girl, if this hypothetical nice girl had not met you, then you would have just gone and just cut random women in half?
These dudes...
Is that what dudes are like?
No.
Shit.
Well, you have to understand, this is a man who was a product of the 30s. Okay?
This is very frightening for me.
If you work out the dates. So... guys like this are not being created anymore because the 30s are now gone. All right.
Thank fuck for that.
Whatever it was whatever fetish that had hold of him, at this time, probably is not a fetish that exists today. You understand what I'm talking about?
It's a fetish that is easily
fulfilled in other avenues.
Sure.
So in other words, maybe something as simple as the advent of online porn is preventing this kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, as problematic as I find some types of porn, I do think in general porn is a good thing. I do think
it's like a pressure valve outlet.
Right. Because you can find pretty much anything online and you can just watch it and not... And I think 99% of dudes that have these weird fetishes and stuff will just be happy with that. They can see somebody else indulging in it.
Well, most of the guys that have these kind of fetishes are kind of harmless and they're just playing around.
Right.
But there's always this one weird
Yeah, but you're always going to have that. There's nothing you can do about that.
That would have done some crazy shit had he not had some kind of outlet.
Yeah.
And you see, inhibition and restriction, keeping people fucking tightened up in a little box, can cause these weird explosions of behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Things like the Black Dahlia slaying and serial killers, in a way, are a natural disaster. You know what I'm talking about? But it's a human natural disaster.
I get what you're saying.
Because of problems inside of societies.
Right.
Be it child rearing.
And these are people with, and they're generally people with some type of mental sociopathy or psychopathy or something that's untreated.
Normal people never really go down this path.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's like you're always going to have, because there's always going to be a certain very small percentage, thankfully, of the population that are going to do this type of thing. And I think in most cases it can be prevented. In a very small, maybe a fraction of a percent, you probably can't prevent it because that's just the way they're wired and there's nothing you can do about it. But I think that's a pretty vanishingly rare percentage.
I think a lot of this shit comes from guys, or a lot of this stuff is coming from guys that didn't resolve things in childhood. Because really, when you look at it, these are probably very primitive type fantasies, things that are supposed to be resolved in 3- and 4-year-old children. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you would think.
Just the basic foundations.
I mean,
like some of them have a hard time differentiating between sexual desire and desire for food. So they eat the people that they're attracted to. You know what I'm talking about? Which is something that kids are supposed to figure out the difference
Totally
between
logical.
sexual attraction and the attraction to food. You know, they're supposed to
Right.
figure that out at the age 2. You know what I mean? It should be something that simple.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, look, I'm a girl, and I'm not saying that sometimes when I go, look, I've worked retail, I've gone out in public. There have been many, many times where if I could have killed someone and gotten away with it, I would have.
Shame on you.
But no, I'm just saying, because people were being,
make you so mad.
that's what I mean. People were being just such douche hats that
yeah.
I'm just like, can you please just die? Oh my God.
I have dreams where I get mad and I stomp a motherfucker into a greasy spot. I look down and there's nothing left. Just a
Everybody
greasy spot.
has that.
Yeah.
Everybody has that.
Yeah.
But most people know it's not worth it, really.
And it brings on too much trouble, and you have the abilities to kind of, you know, sometimes, you know, I get a few drinks in me in a bar, you might throw a fist, but people are going to break it up. You know what I mean? You know,
which I've done that too.
You know, and a lot of times it's between,
I've done that too.
It's between dickheads.
He knows.
Yeah.
But so I've done that too. But so it's the same kind of thing. But so all right, let's get back to the Black Dahlia case. Okay, so like I said, they got a package with all this stuff of her stuff. So evidently, I mean, this is probably for someone that knew her, or obviously probably from her killer. Now, on January 26th, they got another letter that was kind of all pasted letters and shit. And it said, here it is, turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m., had my fun at police, and it was signed Black Dahlia Avenger. So here's the guy, he's like, I'm going to turn myself in and all this other shit. So he tells the police he's going to turn himself in. Does he? Of course not. No. Even though the police were waiting. Yeah, the Black Dahlia Avenger. Okay. So he didn't turn himself in, but, you know, the police had to obviously, you know, act like that was legit, because it probably was, but then he decided not to. So they waited, he didn't show up. And then they get another letter, the paper got another letter that said, I've changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal. And then at the end of it, it says, Dahlia killing was justified.
What? It was justified?
Right. So in this person's sick little mind.
Because she's a whore.
I guess.
I don't know. Knock them
like I said, this is why dudes frighten me. They have very, very weird thoughts. They have very, very weird thought patterns.
That dude's fucking lying.
Very weird thought patterns.
He knows that shit wasn't justified. He just
so all this stuff. So the case goes nowhere. So let's kind of talk about, you know, since the case happened, and since, you know, in all the decades since. And I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, it's been like 70 fucking years since this shit happened.
The dude that did that's dead.
Well, yeah, but they still want to know who did it. I mean, you know.
They never figure out who did that.
Now, they had a ton of false confessions, which they always do in a case of this magnitude where it's, you know, all up in the media and stuff. So there was a bunch of that kind of shit. But let's kind of talk about, there were some suspects at the time that were interviewed and released, and then there were some suspects that kind of came along later that were some of the ones that were, you know, kind of looked at the time but dismissed, but whatever. So let's kind of talk about, now, one of the ones that has come about lately was a guy named Walter Bailey. And this, I don't think they interviewed him at the time, but he was one that, he was a name that kind of came up later on. Now, he was a surgeon, like I said. Even at the time that the Black Dahlia was killed, they actually pulled a huge list of everyone that was at the UCLA or the medical schools or whatever in the area, because they said this is somebody with some medical knowledge that would have to know how to bisect the body without encountering bone and whatnot. You have to get them at the right, you know, vertebrae. Otherwise, you know, cutting the body in half is very hard.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna say that that's not right. A hunter could do it. Somebody who's field dressed in deer would know where to do it.
But they're just saying they needed somewhere to start, so they're like, this looks like a medical student. And they drained all the blood also.
They're always thinking up it was a doctor. No, it could have been a deer hunter. Or somebody, you know what I mean,
True.
whose dad was a deer hunter and they field dressed a few deer.
Yeah.
You know, they're always looking at these. I mean, yeah, that's a good place to start, but yeah, that's.
Although, how many deer hunters are there in Los Angeles?
In California, there could have been a lot back then.
Yeah,
remember it was more.
That's
suburban,
true. It was more rural.
More suburban. There were rural areas where a lot of places to hunt.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Where are you going?
Bathroom.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, so one of the main suspects that has been discussed lately is a guy named Walter Bailey. Now, he was a surgeon in Los Angeles. Now, the main reason that he came to authorities' attention later on was because he had left his wife in 1946, and his daughter was allegedly a friend of Elizabeth's sister. Now, the wife, the ex-wife, said that Walter Bailey had a mistress and that Walter Bailey, when he died, had left all his money to his mistress because she knew some kind of secret about him, implying that she was blackmailing him. And so the ex-wife claims that the secret that the mistress knew was that he was the one that had killed the Black Dahlia. Now, it should be noted that even though he was a surgeon, he was about 67 years old at the time the Black Dahlia was murdered, which seems a little old for somebody for this type of crime. Yeah. Now, some people have pointed out that it's like, oh, well, that was the reason that Elizabeth Short was cut in half, was because it made her easier to transport. But
he's the wrong profile.
That seems, it seems a little sketchy. Like, I've seen a couple documentaries about this where they interviewed the ex-wife, and it's like, it could be. Now, he did kind of live near where the body was found. Yeah. Okay, so there is that.
I'm going to tell you there's a big problem with that. Most serial killers, burn out in their 40s. It's because of hormones. This type of murder is usually hormonally driven. It's with the sex drive. They have a fucking high sex drive, and it's fucking linked up with violence and fucking these weird fantasies. A man at 67 just doesn't have the drive to put himself in this kind of danger to do something so stupid as to fucking cut some girl in half and put
Well, now the whole thing about this is that they're like, oh, well, Bailey had a neurodegenerative disorder, which caused some brain degeneration that caused some violent behavior, which is possible. It does happen, but I'm not real sure.
It's unlikely.
This. I feel like it's kind of unlikely, but he's kind of one of the main ones that's discussed.
This was a young man's crime.
Lately, yeah. This seems like a very... And like I said, this is somebody that took a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like he took a lot of time killing her, but he for sure took a lot of time posing the body and making it look the way he wanted it to look.
Yeah.
There was another suspect named Norman Chandler, and this kind of whole thing hinges on him having impregnated her and stuff like that. And I have to say that any scenario that has her being impregnated by somebody, giving them a motive for killing her, or an abortionist or anything like that, is kind of bullshit, because the autopsy says that she was not pregnant and had never been pregnant. So I kind of tend to believe that over all these kind of wild accusations of, oh, well, she was pregnant with his baby and he didn't want one, so that's
too unlikely.
Gave him a motive. So, so anything like that, I'm kind of gonna look askance at, because according to the autopsy report, she had never been pregnant, and she was not pregnant when she died, so it was nothing to do with abortionists or anything like that. Now, another one was Leslie Dillon, who was 27 years old at the time. He was a bellhop and a former mortician's assistant. Now, he became a suspect when he started writing to the LAPD psychiatrist, who was named Dr. River, or Dr. D. River, in 1948. Now, he was living in Florida at the time, but he had formerly lived in LA, and he said that he had read a story about the murder in a magazine, like they had those true crime type of True Detective magazines back then. And he was writing to the psychiatrist about his theories about the case, which seemed a little weird, So they kind of started looking into it. And he said he was very interested in sadism and like sexual violence and things like that. Now, he said that he thought this friend of his, and I'm making bunny rabbit ears if you're listening to it on the audio version, named Jeff Connors, was maybe the killer because he knew about that kind of stuff. Now, for a long time, the psychiatrist was thinking, oh, you have a friend? You know how that goes. I have a friend that did this and that. No, it's really you. But they did actually find out this Jeff Connors person was an actual real person, when they investigated. So they did actually find this actual person. So they actually did meet up with this guy and all this other kind of shit happened. So this seems a little more likely. I'm not super sure about that.
This is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
First of all, this was a young man's crime.
Yeah. This guy was 27.
And he was the kind of guy, remember Cannibal Cop?
Yeah.
He was a vor?
Yeah.
Okay. He was a guy like that, where you have a normal life and you sit around and you have this weird fetish that you keep fantasizing about. He was a guy kind of like one of these vors.
Yeah.
Or he was a guy kind of like one of these dudes that constantly fantasizes about amputation. Like a guy who would like cut off his own finger. Or just get, he was a dude that just had this weird fetish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
About cutting somebody in half and putting faces and taking pictures of it. Something having to do with amputation or bisection. It was some kind of a fetish like that.
Because like I said, this is a very fetish.
Yeah, and he did it, and for some reason stopped. Either he realized it wasn't satisfying, or that something else came along in his life, and he realized that, well, I don't want to lose this because I'm into this, and that wasn't all that good, and just it was something like that.
Yeah.
The photos of it kept him satisfied for him long enough to make a transition out of that fetish. But I want to say he was a dude kind of like Cannibal Cop vor dude who didn't kill anybody, but he was just totally fascinated about cooking girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And talk about cooking girls.
Which is a very weird...
This was a dude that was...
That's a weird fetish.
Totally fantasizing about cutting some girl in half. About being in half. I think that's what it was.
That's kind of, and I'm not shitting on people that have fetishes because, everybody has them, and like some of them are weird, and as long as you don't like try to indulge them with people that are unwilling.
He had some kind of fetish about...
I'm on board with it.
He had some kind of a fetish about being in half, and the person being cut in half liked it and was happy with it. That's why he put the smile in her face, cut a smile in her face.
Oh, that's... I never thought of that, but that's really... That's
like
disturbing.
He probably
where she was happy, but I got cut in half.
He was cutting little animals in half.
I love that shit.
Cutting little animals in half and little lizards and little things in half.
Dude.
And they enjoyed it and he enjoyed it. And somehow he had to satisfy himself by cutting some person in half and they liked it. It was something like that.
Because I gotta say, like, since I was a kid, I've had, it's not a fetish because I don't like it. I'm alarmed by it.
Yeah.
I've always had a thing about beheading. Like I don't get off on it. I just find it very upsetting, and it's something that I think about a lot because it's something that bothers me. So whenever I see it in a movie, like when I saw The Omen and like fucking David Warner getting his head cut off with the pane of glass, that like really upset me when I was a kid. I was like, oh shit, because I was like, that really like freaked me out.
As having a background as being a soldier, infantry, and for me, beheading is always kind of like equated to primal and primitive combat, where soldiers got real close to one another and they fought with blades. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And you grab somebody you don't like what they said, or you don't like what they did, and you overcome them physically, and you take a blade and you cut their head off, and then you have the head by the hair.
See, that kind of stuff.
And you're like, I got you, bitch. Look, there you are. You know what I mean? And it's that kind of a vibe.
Me.
That's what beheading is. That's why primitive warriors.
Because it's got the face on it.
Got the face, and now, it's like, I took your body away.
That's what bothers me about it. It bothers me because...
It's total emasculation. You're cutting the person off from their body.
Yeah, it's not even emasculation, it's dehumanization.
Exactly. Now you have the head, and the head is in your hand. And there he is.
Yeah.
And then, the Japanese did that to the fallen enemies of the dead. They took the head, and then they would take the head before their lord to be paid for that kill because they were mercenary armies. That's how you prove that you actually killed a person, killed an enemy soldier. So head hunting and taking heads is very primal, very primitive warrior behavior. Because you can carry a head easily. You can't carry a body easily, but you can carry a head as easily.
8 heads in a duffel bag. That was a movie.
Right. And you can easily
it's actually a pretty good movie.
You can easily identify the head as, look, here he is.
Right.
Yeah. They brought somebody's head to President Bush, or they planned it to. What was it? President Bush wanted what's the guy who did the 9/11 thing? Osama bin Laden. He wanted his head. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, when they went up there to those mountains where they thought they were going to catch him, they had the special forces had a cooler with dry ice in it to actually bring Osama bin Laden's head back to George Bush, and that's not a lie. That did happen, but they couldn't get him.
No.
They couldn't get him.
But that's the thing. It's like that's why every time, and honestly, the first time I read the story about, I think it was Mary Queen of Scots, and when they were beheading her, and the executioner missed the first time and like kind of just chunked her in the back of the head, and she was still conscious.
Yeah.
And then he had to do it a bunch of times. Oh, I still remember that. That upset me so much.
Well, beheading and that thing, I read about that type of beheading.
That's fucked up.
And evidently, if you were a real shithead, they
would miss on purpose?
No, it would behead you with an axe.
Well, that's what they did to her.
Yeah, because the axe was dull.
Yeah,
and
it's a dull
the axe just kind of mashed your head off.
Yeah.
If they were going to have
that's
mercy,
horrible.
If they were going to have mercy, they used a sword. Because
I can only think of a few people that I would do that to.
Motherfucker can.
Most of the time.
Motherfucker can get mad. Okay,
most
you can
of
get
the
very
time.
mad. I can imagine doing that.
I could think of a few people.
I haven't been in a situation where I'm going to be like, dude, I got to cut your head off, man. Sorry.
But slowly.
Yeah, you know.
I'm just going to mash it
I haven't
off.
been in that situation yet, but I can imagine it. I mean,
I can totally imagine.
Hate is a powerful thing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Now, what I don't understand about these serial killers, though, is that they have no reason to hate these people. You know what I mean?
See, that's what's like. Look, there are plenty of legitimate reasons to hate people. I'm not saying go kill people or behead people.
Yeah, you get caught. You go to prison.
Don't do that. It's not worth the effort, honestly. I'm too lazy to do shit like that anyway. But I'm just saying, I can understand that. Like, so even murders are horrible, but murders that are committed like in the heat of an argument or something like that, it's like it's not justifiable,
right?
But it's understandable,
right?
Like we've all been that mad.
You break into my house, you threaten her, or if I had children, you threaten. It's gonna get bad. It's just gonna get bad,
and that's what I mean. It's like even if I was out, if I was at fucking 7-Eleven getting coffee and you threatened me, I would be very upset about it. If I could behead you, I would.
Cute girl because you're attracted to her and you're gonna cut her head off. I don't really understand.
That's what I mean. That is some fucked up shit right there. It's almost taking like an understandable human emotion, and just like
cross-wiring it with sex
it's
drive and fucking violence.
You're relating it to something that it doesn't have any relation to. That's what kind of kills me of this whole Black Dahlia thing. It's like, look, it's like I don't know if she did. Like, I'm not blaming the victim or anything like that, but it's like, did she piss you off or did she like turn you down for a date or something like that? Which in no way
I would say
justifies anything like that. But it's like, why would that give you incentive to do something that extreme?
I would say by the condition of the body that didn't happen. The condition of the body is that she was cut in half for sexual fetishist reasons.
That it seems very fetishistic to me.
The guy who did this fantasized that she enjoyed it. That's how I
never thought of that, but the way that her face was cut into the smile like that could suggest that, sure.
That's what I think.
I actually never thought of that, but that does seem like
that she was complicit in it.
Yeah, it's like, she liked it.
Yeah, she liked it, right.
Which, that is like extra fucked up. And that's why, so probably in recent years, the most famous suspect for this has been Dr. George Hill Hodel. And this came about because his son, Steve Hodel, who used to be a police detective, he wrote a book called The Black Dahlia Avenger, in which he accused his father, who died in 1999, of having killed the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Which now, okay, I saw
he had some compelling.
He did.
Stuff.
I saw a documentary about this. I've read parts of the book. He does have some compelling, and it should be noted, Dr. Hodel was a suspect at the time.
Yeah.
He was such a suspect that they bugged his house.
Right.
So they do have some recordings of him saying some pretty incriminating shit. Like, he did say something like, supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, he said something like, there's no proving it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead. His secretary, Ruth Spalding, had died a short time earlier from a quote-unquote overdose. Now, he was supposedly there when this overdose happened, and she had supposedly been going to go to either the press or whatever authorities because he was a doctor. He actually ran a sexually transmitted disease clinic. He wasn't a surgeon, but he did run a clinic. And so she was evidently planning to go to the authorities about some kind of sketchy financial shit that he was into, or he was doing some kind of shit like that. So she was apparently going to go. So there was a lot of speculation that he had murdered her, but they could never prove it. So he was under surveillance. So it's not like, and also his daughter Tamar, who was 14, accused him of molesting her at the time.
That doesn't equate, though.
Right, but I'm just saying that it's not like he was Snowy White and people are just like accusing this guy of nothing. He was actually under the radar at the time. Oh, yeah. If you see, and the house is still standing, it's like this huge house. I think it's called Franklin Drive nowadays or whatever, but it's this huge, it looks like a Mayan temple, his house. And you can still go to the house. They did it on fucking Ghost Hunters and shit like that. They went there, as far as I know. I saw some pictures of Zach and all them in front of this fucking house. But the house, it has like secret passages and shit like that. And apparently he was kind of like a high up. He was a doctor, so he had a lot of money. Yeah. And he knew some famous people. So
how old was he at the time?
I'm not sure. He was in his 30s or 40s. Great. And he had some kind of famous friends, and they had allegedly had some parties at this Mayan temple looking house that he had, which, like I said, is still standing. It's still there. There's pictures of it on Google. And so evidently there's been some accusations that he had offered up daughters and other teenage girls to various people in Los Angeles that he knew, other kind of business owners,
so he's
or
trying to
Hollywood,
pimp out his daughters?
Right, things of that nature. So there have been allegations like that. So like I said, I'm not saying that the dude, he's dead now, so he can't defend himself. The problem that I'm kind of finding with this, like I said, some of the stuff that Steve Hodel says in his book is actually kind of compelling. He kind of thinks that, his handwriting, his dad's handwriting looked like handwriting that had been attributed to the Black Dahlia killer or whatever. But the reason that he first started suspecting his dad was because, I was looking through my dad's things after he died, and I saw these two photos, and they looked just like Elizabeth Short, and I thought, he must have known her. But I've seen these two pictures.
Well, at least he knew about her after the investigation.
Yeah, I've seen these two photographs that were allegedly of Elizabeth Short, and I'm not saying they're not her, but they don't look that much like her to me. One of them kind of could be her, but it was kind of like the angle was weird, and it's like I couldn't really tell. Some people have allegedly said that he did know her.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's not him. You know why? I think one, he's a little too old. Two, I think he's a little too functional, too high functioning. I think the guy who did this actually did have privacy, but I think he was more of a loser type.
Although I kind of suspect he might have killed his secretary.
Yeah.
They did kind of have him much smoke for that. I'm kind
what
of
else
feeling
do you have
like
as a suspect?
I'm kind of feeling like there were a couple other ones, but a couple other ones. There was one named George Knowlton, but that was another one where the thing is, after this whole Black Dahlia Avenger by Steve Hodel came out, like I said, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. The first book, I'm like, okay, that sounds legit. I'm not saying that his dad killed the Black Dahlia. It's possible, sure. He did probably know her. They probably ran in the same circles. He could have done it. But, at this stage, it kind of seems like then everybody came out of the wood. Yo, my dad is the Black Dahlia killer. My dad's the Zodiac. My dad's and then Steve Hodel comes out with these other subsequent books that said that his dad was also the Zodiac, that he had also done all these other murders. And I'm like, you know, you just pissed away any goodwill that you might have had.
The guy who did this slipped under the radar.
I kind of feel like this might have been, sure, it could have been a serial killer, but it was maybe somebody that wasn't.
It was a one-time killer.
It was either a one-off or they didn't really catch him on the other ones. And it was somebody, like I said, I feel like this was a personal crime.
I got a feeling this was his first homicide and his last. He was fetish. He was a.
It
fetish.
does happen. It's rare, but it happens.
He was a fetish serial killer, or if he was a fetish killer, he would have been a serial killer, but for some reason he stopped. Serial killer, you have to kill 3, but that's just an FBI definition.
Yeah, it's just a number.
It's just
killing one person is bad enough.
And it's hard to it's hard to quantify people and human behavior. Under normal circumstances, he would have been a serial killer, but for some reason he stopped. Maybe he killed himself. Maybe he went to prison. Maybe he got married and decided to stop. Maybe he had a change of heart. Something like that.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling this guy wasn't as functional or successful as a doctor. You know what I mean? I think he was, you know, kind of a scuzzbag, kind of a wannabe.
Which I feel like most serial killers probably are.
I
think that's a myth that I think maybe it's because of Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal Lecter, who's this super intelligent psychologist. I don't think most of them are like that. I don't think they're idiots necessarily, but I think a lot of them are just average intelligence.
And I think there was some kind of a connection with her.
Oh, there must have been.
But it wasn't as deep as they're trying to make it sound.
Right.
I don't think he dated her. I think he just knew about her.
Yeah, I think it was a thing where he became fixated, maybe.
Yeah, he saw her and got her.
Maybe in his mind, it was a much more of a connection than she would have
She probably
perceived.
didn't even know his name.
Right. She probably didn't even know who he was. It was like I feel like it was a stalker type situation. Right. Like somebody that had developed this whole entire relationship with her without her really knowing about it. I kind of feel like that's because all the people that knew her that were suspects, because obviously Red Manley was a suspect because he was the last guy to see her alive. Even though he did help the police, he identified the shoes and the bag. It's like, yeah, that's hers. And he was like not even around. They gave him polygraph tests. He was, kind of exonerated. But also Mark Hansen, whose name was on the book, he was kind of a little bit of a sleazebag. Maybe he was kind of into her and stuff like that. But I kind of feel like he didn't really have much motive otherwise. I just feel like this was somebody that, like you said, was like someone from afar that maybe had seen her.
This was some kind of a nerdy incel, what you would call today an incel, involuntary celibate, and very cringy. You wouldn't want to be around him.
Yeah.
Probably like some big overweight guy who was kind of in the area, fucking late term virgin, talking about maybe in it 35, virgin type, something like that.
I kind of feel like it's more, I feel like the main
big
suspects...
into this, I'm going to cut you in half and you're going to love it.
Yeah.
Something about, I'm going to cut my fingertips off and I'm going to like it. So it's a guy like that.
I kind of feel like if they're going to ever find out who did this, I feel like it was somebody not one of the main suspects, but I think it was someone on the periphery. Like it was somebody that knew her or knew somebody that knew her, but maybe wasn't like friends of hers. Like say
he lived on her block probably.
Or like somebody like this next suspect who is Patrick O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Who was actually, he was a doctor too, but he was actually only an acquaintance of hers and he knew her through Mark Hansen. So it was like a friend of a friend. And also, he had been in prison for other things, like other sexually violent type of crimes. So I feel like it's probably somebody like that wasn't like super associated with her, but knew somebody that knew her and just kind of like saw her and was like, yeah, I'm going to get that. It seemed like something like that sort of case. Because this
medical background thing, though, if you ask me,
that's not necessarily the case.
Red herring.
It doesn't have to
because you have medical manuals all throughout, the libraries.
Yeah, true.
You can buy whatever you want. And these guys that are into, amputations and weird amputation fetishes. They buy that kind of crap and they learn about that kind of crap before they do it.
True.
You know what I mean? So
it doesn't necessarily, like I said,
mean anything.
like the whole thing about Jack the Ripper, it's like there's kind of a thing, it's like, oh, well, he had to be a doctor, and how did he stand out in Whitechapel because it was working class and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you don't, it's easier nowadays, I guess, but back then in Victorian London, even then, you didn't have to be a doctor necessarily. Like you said, you could have been a butcher.
Yeah, or somebody just interested
or a hunter, or somebody that knew how to cut up animals, because a human is just, they're no different than a deer or any other animal. So
and the difference in shape is actually slight.
Yeah, so if you knew how to field dress a deer, as you said, then doing it to a human would not be that difficult. So you don't have to be a surgeon necessarily. No. I do see how they're kind of like, oh, well, you have to know like exactly where to bisect the body and blah, blah, blah. But it's like,
it's the same on a deer.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But I don't think that can't be the be all end all of your investigation. So, there were some other suspects. Jack Anderson Wilson, who was actually kind of a serial killer. He got kind of caught for some other shit later.
How we doing on time?
There were a couple of other female suspects, because, like I said, there were a bunch of rumors about, the Black Dahlia was gay and all this other kind of stuff, but that's never been substantiated. So that just seemed like some other some sensationalistic bullshit. There were a couple of celebrity suspects. Woody Guthrie, the folk singer, for whatever reason. Orson Welles, I don't know why. Bugsy Siegel.
No.
The very famous gangster. Some people thought he had something to do with it. I don't know why, but yeah, so I don't know about that. And, so there have been a lot of other shit like that. Like I said, there have been tons of other...
They don't know who did that.
Well, obviously
that was some little nerdy incel who lived on her block or knew about her, and he had this weird fetish about cutting things in half and them enjoying it. That's what I say this is.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's
It's not.
That's probably
yeah.
And I don't know. Like I said, there were a couple of other sort of similar. Like I said, some people have tried to connect this to the murder of Georgette Bauerdorf, and I think the problem there is that they try to relate it because they're like, oh well, they both worked at the same place, except they didn't. Yeah, Georgette Bauerdorf worked at this one club that was like all the GIs hung out there, and there was some weird perception that the Black Dahlia worked there as well, but she didn't. The Black Dahlia didn't move there until after that place was already closed. Now, Georgette Bauerdorf was actually found in her apartment. She had been raped, and she was found face down in her bathtub. Somebody had killed her like that. So they think it was someone that followed her home from the club. But the whole thing about relating those two crimes was that, oh, well, those two girls knew each other, but I don't think they did, because I don't think Elizabeth Short had actually moved to LA until a couple of years after that place had closed. So they didn't both work at the same place. So, whatever that, like I said, I wrote about Georgette Bauerdorf in my first book, but there's also some shit about why she was called the Black Dahlia and shit like that. But, that was probably from, there was a film noir out called The Blue Dahlia, which, sick kind of thing. But also, she had super black hair. Some people said, oh, she wore little flowers like dahlias in her hair. And, the press at the time, oh, she always wore black clothes, which I don't think she did, but whatever.
It's all part of the legend.
It is, yeah. So I feel like there's so much legend surrounding this case, and this poor woman, it seems like this poor woman, she gets murdered and cut in half, and then everybody's like,
you whore.
God, I hope that never happens to me. That's gonna, I'll be dead, I won't care, but it's like, she doesn't care, she's dead, but for her family and stuff, that must have really sucked.
She was a normal chick for her time and place.
She was just a normal girl.
She got killed by a guy they never could figure out who it was.
Right.
Probably some dude on her block.
Killed in the most horrific.
That's all it is.
And it's like, and it sucks because
he did some fucked up shit.
She was just a normal chick, and now, 70 years later,
yeah.
Every time you say her name, it's like, oh, the chick that got cut in half.
Making movies on her.
They're making movies about it.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
I just hope that never happens. That's terrible. But
Shut it down. Shut it down. That's all.
I know. We've gone on and on.
We've been going on for almost 2 hours.
I know. We've been drinking. That's why. All right. So I know we didn't really come to any resolution, and I'm sorry about that. And look, he's taken off. He's not even.
Unsolved.
He's not even helping me end the show.
Okay.
He just
I'll
took.
come back down.
Get your dumb ass back in
I'll
here.
come back down. I'm just getting frustrated with it. Black Dahlia is unsolved.
Well, yeah.
It will never be solved.
Everything I write about is unsolved.
Right. It's unsolved. It'll never be solved.
You just have to like learn to be like,
People
here's all the
wanna
details.
read into all this shit, and that's not what it was. If they had a good suspect, he'd have been convicted. The suspects that weren't convicted weren't good suspects.
Well, and most of the suspects that they had at the time are dead now.
Yeah.
So even if they definitively proved, hey, it was that guy, you can't do anything to him because he's dead.
The suspects that were named do not fit the profile. They probably didn't do it.
No, although, like, I'm not saying that it might not have been some of them. Like I said, I do kind of feel like that
Unlikely.
guy might have. He kind of seemed.
There would
like
have been an
shithead.
indictment if it was likely.
Right, but
Unlikely.
you know, he probably did some other shit.
Yeah.
And some of them probably did other shit.
Close it down.
But I know about this.
Close it down.
All right, so don't tell me what to do. Listen to it. He's so bossy, you guys.
The time.
He's so bossy.
The time.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. So we're going to wrap this show up. Hope you guys have enjoyed this whole video episode, unless you're listening to the audio, in which case you don't give a shit about it because you're not seeing us anyway. So remember, if you like the show, to like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Remember to look, if you watch the video version of the show, we are not only on YouTube anymore, we're also on BitChute, we're also on VO, we're also on Daily Motion. So look us up on there too. If you
subscribe.
Feel like it. Sure,
subscribe on BitChute.
Even if you don't watch that shit on there,
just
just
subscribe
subscribe
anyway.
on there so it looks good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just do that shit.
It'll help us in the algorithms.
Yeah. So also, if you'd like to financially support the show, you can go to our Patreon page.
Help us reach our $1,000 a month Patreon
Listen how
goal.
he just talks over.
Yeah, I have to.
You don't have to.
Okay.
You just like it. Go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, and you can give a monthly donation, or you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and give a one-time donation through PayPal. There's a little link in the sidebar. You will see it where it says give through PayPal, and you can do that too. Also go to our Zazzle store, which is zazzle.com/13o'clock. We have a bunch of t-shirts, which you can wear
because man said you could.
Because man said you could. They are very nice. I designed them myself.
Yeah.
So they're cool, if I say so
you
myself.
You can rip with the Atlanta Ripper.
With the Atlanta Ripper, right. Also, I'm going to put a link in the description to my Giallo game store where you can purchase the game that I showed you at the beginning.
Got Crustle shirts?
Yeah, I have a Crustle shirt.
Yeah, I got one of fucking Snake Plissken.
Yeah, I do.
And check this out. Got my nice A Starry Night shirt. With my friend Michael, who sings for A Starry Night. Look at that pretty motherfucker with his pretty hair. Got that pretty white boy.
It's hard to see him on there, but
Can't see him,
he looks kind of like a very, very young, thin Robert Smith.
Yeah, kind of.
He has like the big 80s goth hair, which we love. Yep. I love big 80s goth hair. But yeah, so check A Starry Night out too, if you haven't. And also check out our latest movie review, which was A Boy and His Dog from 1975.
Post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Kind of Fallout type movie.
Well, yeah, Fallout was kind of based on it.
Right.
And I think that will do it for episode 104, which has gone on for far longer than any of us ever intended.
Damn, you talk so much.
Me?
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay. Listen to this shit. I have to put up with this every day. Okay, so this is the end of episode 104. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for our regular episodes and every Friday for our movie reviews. And we will see you next time. Bye.